I wanna be a billionaire. I ain't getting no sleep till I see $1 million every week. I wanna be a billionaire. I ain't getting no sleep till I see $1 billion every week. I wanna be a billionaire. Billionaire, I wanna be a billionaire. Billionaire, I wanna be a billionaire. I ain't getting no sleep till I see $1 billion every week. I ain't gonna be.
Let's get it. Ladies and gentlemen, how you doing? Welcome to another episode of Sleep is for Billionaires, the podcast. I am your host, Jonni Vegaz. Now today, I got a very special guest on my show. If you haven't seen the movie on Disney Plus, you need to go check it out. It's called Safety, and it's about a great inspirational story by my man right here. True story, Ray MCELRATHBEY. How you say your last name? I don't want to mess it up. You got to say it for me.
MCELRATHBEY.
There it is, brothers. There it is. He's in the building with us today. How you doing, King?
I'm not as young as that dude. I'm doing well.
Nah, I hear you, man. So I'm glad you came on the show today. As we were discussing earlier, we were a little bit pressed for time, but I'm gonna get all my questions out as quick as I can. This show is about getting insider information from celebrities and entrepreneurs on how to become an industry professional. But with your story, it's a little bit different, because it's more so, your story kind of, led to you kind of being very selfless and sacrificing, your dreams and your goals to kind of provide for your family based on what I saw in the film, which was super inspiring. Congratulations, by the way. And I think it's a story that, that film is up there for me with Little Giants, with Remember the Titans. You know what I'm saying? Like it's in that category, and I want to commend you guys for doing such a great job on that. So I kind of want to start from, the movie being released. How did that even come about? Like, how did this, your story turn into a film? Did you write it? Did you pitch it to different studios, or did somebody approach you and say, hey, I like your story. I know who you are. Let's do this with it.
Well, it's been a 15-year process, 14-year process. Mm-hmm. And my story broke. It was a news story. I played for the university, student athlete, me taking care of my younger brother. Back in those days, it was an issue because I was an NCAA athlete. And so created a situation where I was suspended by the NCAA for violation of the rules based on and people helping me out. And I couldn't do those things as a student athlete. And so during that time, the NCAA suspended me, which also made my story like a national story, along with me just taking care of my brother. And then shortly thereafter, I was suspended by the NCAA for violation of the rules. But from that exposure, everybody else, heard of my story and knew of the things that I was trying to do with my brother and gravitated towards it. And luckily, the NCAA came through and changed the rules. Created a waiver so that I could, I guess, do some things outside the rules for my brother. From there, a gentleman came to me and he was like, "I heard your story, and would you be interested in making a movie with your story? Would you be interested in, that?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, great." I mean, I'm an 19-year-old kid at the time. But the question was, because it was a story about my life, but at the same time I was 19. And even now I'm 34. And still to say it's my life story is kind of, I feel some type of way about that. Like, I've been through a bunch of things and that's only a little piece of it.
Right.
But they came to me, we spoke about it. We shopped it around to various different studios. Disney was actually the third or fourth studio I signed with.
Okay.
They were ready to go. They had the new platform, Disney Plus. Everybody go check out Disney Plus. It is what it is, and here we are today. It's more to that story, but yeah, that's about a quick synopsis of it.
Now, well, that's good to know, man, and commend you on the grind that it took. I mean, 15 years, no overnight success took overnight. You know what I'm saying? Every overnight success was a 10 to 20-year process. You know what I mean? But I kind of want to dive in. I know we pressed for time, but I think this is very key. Diving in on that process when it came to, pitching it to these studios and actually designing it up to where it's presentable to a studio, because you got to get your pitch deck together. You got to get, I don't know if you shot a sizzle reel or anything like that. You got to make it presentable. I don't know if you just walked up to somebody in the studio and kind of told them the story and then said, hey, that's a good idea. So what was that process like as far as you putting the presentation together and, conducting these meetings? And how did you even go about getting these meetings with these industry professionals?
Well, being that my story was covered nationally, I had a contacts that I made via that way. And I guess what you initially do is you probably want to get with a producer, because a lot of the times they have prior relationships that can help you out, get through the process, and they'll know who the guys to contact. And then you got to know who you're trying to reach. You got to know your target market, because luckily with me, Disney and my story fit. Yeah, but your story, you need to figure out what platform fits with your story. A lot of the times. And from there, it's a process of getting the script down, like, telling your story. But like I said, luckily with me, I had a reel of things that I had already done, because I had won ABC World News Person of the Week, Keith Jackson Award of Excellence, the Courage Award by Football Writers Association of America. Did Geraldo, Hallmark Channel, ESPN, BET, Oprah. So it was that process. So luckily I had some things that were already, made it so that my story had an audience. And from there it was just, getting the script together, just, seeing what parts worked. And even still, the movie, we cut it. Like the first director's cut was almost 5 hours long. So there's a bunch of footage, there's a bunch of scenes that didn't necessarily make the movie, and that's just making a movie. But there are things in your story, and I tell anybody, your whole life is content. So you take experiences and you just write them down. And even if you don't sell it as your biopic, you can sell it as the content that which it is which is life. And people watch life on TV all day. Right.
No, that's a fact. So you said Disney was like the fourth option. What were the first three, and why did you feel that it didn't match with them?
Well, it wasn't necessarily that it didn't match. Initially, what happens is that once you go into these deals, there's initial payment. They'll pay you up front, and then that's for your rights for a period of time, typically 18 months to 24 months. That they'll have your rights to do something with this particular, to do something with your story. So typically what would happen with me is I'll sign with the studio, and then from there you wait, and it's a waiting game, and then you wait it out and see if they're going to greenlit the movie, because a lot of the things that they do once they have your story is then they try to piece it with various actors or things. And so then they'll look to get a director, because when they take it to the studio, all these things need to kind of be in place. And based on the story, it kind of depends on, would you need a star to carry a story? So would you need like one of the A-list, celebrities to carry a story, or could you take a regular, no-known cast and just because the story works and move with it that way? So it's a bunch of different things, and then timing is everything. It could not be your time. And sometimes that's all I was finding out, because to go through all these other studios and for Disney to do it, it's not that all these other studios couldn't do it, it's just the time wasn't right. And so a lot of it is based on that as well.
Gotcha. Yes, it looks like y'all got it all done pre-COVID, so that was good.
Luckily, that's this guy there, if I tell people.
Yeah, no, that's a fact, because y'all had a lot of people in there. It looked like football stadiums packed out and everything like that. So that wouldn't have happened now. Right. So how involved were you in the process? Like, were you involved with the casting? I'm sure you were a consultant and telling them how things actually went.
Yes, that was my job to kind of put in my 2 cents where I could. It was encouraged by the producer as well as the director, and Reggie did house parties, Django. he always encouraged me if I don't feel good about something, if there's something that I don't like, some words that I wouldn't feel like I would say something. Let me know, like, you know, and then that's what I would do. So if there was a movement or a gesture, like, nah, I wouldn't be that way. That wouldn't, oh, I'll say this, or this wouldn't happen because in this situation, we only go to study hall in the morning as opposed to going to the afternoon. Just different parts of the story to make it more real, as well as the things that happen on campus. So, that we need to make sure we get this shot. We need to make sure we try to get this place in the scene because these are staples in our community.
Right. No, that's cool, man. I'm sorry, go ahead, continue.
No, I was just saying that's a bunch of the stuff that I did, even with the gentleman that played me, a gentleman named Jay Reeves.
That's my guy. I know Jay. No, I was gonna say it's funny because I used to live in a building over there on Wilshire and La Brea down there in LA, and he used to work in the supermarket right below where I lived at. And I used to see him all the time. He used to make my protein shakes. And he would always talk to me about the acting. This is when I was first getting into acting as well. And he would, telling me, because he was more into theater, I was more into film. And then he was telling me that he had got a role in this play in Detroit or something like that. He was going to go out there for a few months and do it. He told me he got it, was all excited. And then the next time I seen him, at the store was called Lassens. He was like, today's my last day. I'm going to be a full-time actor. And I think that's when he got the role to do this film. And then I ain't seen him. I seen him a few times at some different red carpet events after that, but it was just an amazing story to see how he was going from making the protein shakes to, billboards and on Disney Plus, and the thumbnail on every, promotional thing you see. So that was super inspiring. So he's a good kid, man. I'm definitely proud of him and good to say I know him. And I think it matched perfectly well. I mean, you guys look identical.
Yeah. Now, it's funny that you say you lived on Wilshire and La Brea.
Yeah, at 5200 Wilshire.
I was at Brea and 6.
Okay, you were right up the block.
Straight up. I lived on Burnside.
Oh, okay.
Out on Burnside. And then I also, what's the name of these doggone towers?
You're talking about the, we used to call them the projects, but I know what you're talking about. They're like the tallest buildings. They're right before the Grove. They're like $1,600 a month.
Stupid. What is the? I forgot the name of these doggone. Because I lived there too, and I just can't think of the name.
They were right next to the Palazzo or something like that, right?
Right next to the Palazzo. See, I remember the Palazzo name. La Brea. What is it? La Brea. I can't think of it right.
I can't think of it either, man, because I always just refer to them as the projects because they reminded me of See, I'm from New York, so they kind of look like project buildings to me. They're like the only buildings that look like that building in that area.
Yes, and it's a bunch of them because they got like 4 different communities. Park La Brea.
Yeah.
Yeah, all that I was saying, I'm like, La Brea, what? La Brea something. Park La Brea.
Yeah.
And so when he was casting and they were showing me, his casting tape because there were about 300 entries, but, were trying to be me. And a lot of them reached out to me on Instagram and things like that. But me and Jay went to the same gym. Never really spoke with each other.
That's God right there, man. That's God, man.
When he first got the part, we hooked up and we worked out. So it was like, yeah, I'm down the street.
Yeah, that was destined to be, man. Well, it looked like it all worked out perfect. I mean, he did a great job. His story's amazing, and I loved it, man. When as soon as I pressed play, I was like, whoa, like this is up there with one of the greatest football films, like instant classic is what I can say, man. Instant classic for sure, man. So, how's your little brother doing?
He's great. I mean, crazy as ever, but still good. As young people his age do, they're trying to find his way. I'm helping out if I can to help him try to figure out what it is he wants to do for the rest of his life.
So he's not trying to do football full time, like take it to the NFL
thing. As much it was my thing. The music and production and all that kind of stuff. I don't care for it that much.
You went out. Your camera went out on me. There we go. You're back.
people calling me. I'm sorry about that.
Nah, it's all good, man. Ain't nothing wrong with a little music, man. I do music myself, man. I actually, do some songwriting, some rapping, stuff like that in English and Spanish. So ain't nothing wrong with a little music, man.
Now, it was me around his age. I dabbled and did some stuff because that was one of the reasons I was out in LA. I was staying with some producers, a group of guys named Ryan and Smitty. They were out of LA. They were on La Brea and Melrose. And that's why when I lived in LA, I was out there doing music with them guys.
Okay, I think I know Smitty. I think, is that the Smitty that used to write for Diddy back in the day?
I don't know if he wrote for Diddy.
Probably.
I know. When I was messing around with them, they had just finished doing some stuff with Nicki Minaj.
Copy.
They had a track that made us one of her albums, if I'm not mistaken.
Gotcha. Tell me about the Ray Safety Net Foundation.
That's me trying to save the world, man. They say, man, I guess I'm in my thought process with it is I want to be Captain Planet in a sense that if you put these forces as they combine, like we can come out and I can come out and save a bunch of people from terrible things that are happening in the world today. And so that's my thought process and then it's more so about helping families who've been through similar situations like myself, just try to make it, get to a better, and then we create a village in that same aspects where you come through the program and now you're a part of the program. And then everybody who's inspired by the things that I do, I want them to join with me and to try to continue to inspire others. And so my plan and you and anyone who can hear my voice on this particular podcast and anywhere else in the world, if you all want to join me, I will gladly appreciate it because essentially I'm building a village. And if we all do it together, each one teach one, we'll be good. And so that's my plan with my foundation, and that's how I want to move with it.
That's what's up, man. I'm glad to hear that, man. I know you got to go relatively soon, man. I wish we could talk a little bit longer. I was gonna ask, so how's your mom's doing, man? You know what I'm saying? Is she back up to speed? She good and clean and all that?
Right now, yes. But
that's awesome.
It's always a process because I people at home the wrong impression about how addiction works. It's not a here today, gone tomorrow type of thing. It's a always working process. It's day to day, and they'll tell you in the programs, Narcotics Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous, that today, just today. If you work for today, work. Not saying that you can't look forward in the future, but you need to work with your addiction today. Notice that you're gonna have battles in your addiction today. And you just those things. And so for my mom, man, I just encourage her to take each day one step at a time. And she's been doing that, and I'm proud of her for it.
That's what's up. Y'all got a tight relationship and everything. Y'all good?
I love my people because a lot of times people will hear my story and think that there's some type of animosity on the back end.
Yeah.
And there was some resentment. I'm not going to kick it and act like there was no times where I didn't feel like, the world was against me. But as I grew, as I got older, I realized some of the worst things that ever happened to me was some of the better things that happened to me. Because some of the things would consider not some of the greater things that happened to me are the things that I'm celebrated for today, i.e. the movement and just the things that overcoming and persevering. But if I wouldn't have went through those things, then I wouldn't be in the position I'm in today.
You'd be a totally different person.
Right. So if I'm comfortable with who I am, which I am, so because in order for me to be free, I have to be me. So I continue to try to move forward in that manner.
Yeah, man, I feel you, man. I have my own battles with addiction. Not too crazy, more with alcohol, man. I actually caught this big scar on my face falling through a gas table, being drunk, partying too much. And, thank God I survived. But that was a big wake-up call for me because it could have been my eye on my neck and it could have been a wrap. So I truly feel you on taking it one day at a time and staying strong every day, because it's all around us and we could easily fall off the wagon at any moment, but we just got to stay strong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, that's a fact, man. I mean, I know last question, man. I don't want to hold you too much, man. You still playing football or what?
Yeah, man. I'm going down to Florida. It's not this weekend, but next week. Or maybe I'll go to Florida this week. I have a event, but next weekend, Flag Football Nationals is in Florida. typically rock with a team out of Philly and Connecticut. Some guys I play with in Atlanta, 8-man and 9-man football. It's not, not the NFL. It's not the, NCAA, but a lot of the guys that I play with and play against played college ball. Some guys played in the league, and then the NFL started a flag football league as well, where they give away $1 million. So you can chase a check still, but it's all fun and games for me.
That's what's up. Yeah, you're gonna have fun, man. Ain't no pandemic in Florida, man. Everything's wide open. I used to live out there. I actually lived in Tampa. I lived in Tampa for about 10 years before I came to LA. So, it's good times. But every time I look on Instagram, my boy's still promoting the clubs. They still out there on the beaches, wilding out. So,
I mean, there's places like, as I call, like in New York on punishment, but places like Georgia, Florida are a little bit more freer. I don't recommend it for everybody. Right. State's not as dense as some of these other places. That the lockdown is definitely necessary. Not saying that we shouldn't do the same thing on this side, because I think we should, as a nation, come together and have a uniform effort on something. Especially with what's going on today. It's been one of those days where we need to come together.
That's a super fact, man. I mean, are you aware of what's happening currently at the White House right now?
Capitol, yeah.
I think it would have been a completely different ballgame if it was us.
Black Lives Matter. What? It would have been a bunch of rioters. We wouldn't have been protesters, not once. And it's unfortunate there's that double standard, but it's not something that needs to go unspoken, because we should definitely point that out. Because if it was us, if they were of a different hue, if it was just a few of them, still a totally different ball game, because they talked about it. Whereas when Black Lives Matter had their protest, you couldn't get through the streets. It was locked down from the start of DC until all the way to the White House. You had checkpoints almost.
Right.
But now, hey, no. You can storm the building, blow out the windows.
No military in sight. No security is just like, please back up. Like, come on.
Nah.
We would have been getting maced. We put blood all over the Oval Office.
It would have been dead right now. Fortunately, some believe has been shot, and that's tragic. And hopefully, they survive it. But at the same time, it would have been a totally different ball game if it was the other way around. And that's what we're going, because it's unnecessary, because it's division based on non-facts. And if anything, we need to come together on facts. But that's a world that I'm not sure we can ever live in again.
Unfortunately, man. So just to get off the sad note, man, I know you say your story, there's a lot of your story that wasn't in the film. Do you have plans on, telling other stories from within your life, and putting those out as films or web series or series at all?
I'm already working with Disney to possibly do a sequel. But then the question becomes, because a lot of the things, and not that I have any issue with what this movie came out to be, but there are some things in my life that, unfortunately, the particular platform, although Disney has some subsidiaries, it might be too much for a family. That's not, it's more rated R. And that's just because of the things that I went through. There is violence, there is pain, there's sexual content. There's a bunch of things that make my life what my life is. And wasn't covered in the movie. And then the fact that I have 7 siblings as opposed to 1, that's movie. So there's a bunch of things in there. And with addiction, there's some sad things about it. There's some tragic times. There's some tragic things that people need to see, I think. Because if you're inspired by what I went through in Clemson, everything else that I went through before Clemson would be that much more inspiring as far as I'm concerned. Because at Clemson, my basic needs were met. I had housing, I had food, and so everything else was icing on the cake.
Right.
And for me, that's how I looked at it. And that's for me to take care of my brother at the time. It wasn't that, not that it wasn't a sacrifice, because looking back, it was a huge sacrifice, but for me, it wasn't the biggest thing I would consider myself doing. It wasn't like my largest undertaking of an event in my life.
Right.
Because through so much before that point. So I was prepared for ups and downs because all of the basics were taken care of, food and housing. There have been times I need to figure out what I'm going to eat and where I'm going to stay. And figure out those things when I tell people you surviving. At the time, the movie covers my living days. I was living then. I could reflect and think back and even look to take care of somebody.
Right.
But during I was surviving. And I think most of the country right now are surviving. And we'll find it my survival story as opposed to the way I lived.
No, I totally agree 100%. I think more stories of survival needs to be displayed, just to give people that hope that we can overcome, because that's really what it boils down to, man, having that faith, you know what I'm saying? Stories like that just, give us that battery in our back to keep pushing, you know what I'm saying? Because that's all we can do at the end of the day.
Yeah, and then I want to highlight things that happened in my life to let others know that they're not alone in a lot of their trauma. Like, I've been through things as well, and you can continue to move forward and you continue to live, even going through all those traumas. Because I talk about a lot of stuff that I wanted to cover, and one of the things that my organization will cover as far as education on ACE scores, which is Adverse Childhood Experiences. And because your ACE score, the number of traumas that you went through as a child, directly affect the rest of your life. And then a lot of familiar with what even an ACE score is, or what our ACE score is, and the things that happen because of it. And so I think with the self-reflection, with us looking at ourselves and trying to fix ourselves first, open up a lot of doors for us to help others. Because part of this whole process for me is just being vulnerable and letting everybody, know that I'm not perfect. I have my own shortcomings. I can do it, you can do it as well. I'm not, because a lot of times people, especially with things like movies, they make you a hero. And not saying that people that movies are made about, and not even myself, can't be heroes, but at the same time, I want you to know everything. I want you to know that, because it ain't all good. And if you can know that it's not all good, that you don't have to be perfect, because some people make this thought process that everything has to be right. A lot of people won't move until everything's right, but then that happens. Everything being right might not ever come true. So what you got to know how to move when things are not right, and when things don't seem like they'll ever get better.
Right. No, that's 100%, brother. And I wish more people thought like that. More people saw that message. I mean, we're just in the era of being perfect, especially with the Instagram and the filter. Everybody want to look perfect. They want these likes and that instant gratification. You know what I'm saying? It's really a facade. It's an illusion. It doesn't really mean anything. You know what I'm saying? It's about how you see yourself when you look in that mirror. You know what I'm saying? And that's what's really going to take you to the next level with things, man.
But say something about that, about gratification. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the marshmallow test.
I'm not.
Basically, you put a marshmallow in front of a kid. You see how long they can go without, try to satisfy that instant gratification. To go without instant gratification. And studies have shown that the longer they can go without instant gratification, the longer they can prolong their gratification, the better they'll be off in life. Wow. Right? Now, but this is the thing too. But with the marshmallow test, once you kind of give everybody the social order, like, so if you're rich, basically, if you have from an affluent background, the effects of it are no longer there. You can prolong gratification because you know what, tomorrow gonna be another marshmallow,
right?
And you get two more marshmallows. So if you live in a lifestyle, if you come up as a kid in that type of lifestyle, you can prolong gratification. Therefore, later on in life, you are more successful. Because it's not that you were even taught. It was something that you gained based on the way you live. Because you wouldn't worry about hurry up and grabbing something out the refrigerator if you know when you go back in there in an hour, it's still going to be there. In 2 hours, tomorrow, because in my household, after to the month. Like everything else is my mom get food stamps, get a check. We go. Some of the highlighted items are like things like grapes, pineapples, sweet stuff, cookies. If you don't get in there and get what you can get, you'll end up trying to put your name on something that still might disappear.
Right. Right.
And so it's that kind of thing. So even coming up poor helps. It kind of hinders you in a sense because you can't prolong gratification. So your impulse control is typically not the same with someone who comes from money or comes from a more affluent background. And so it's things in society that can be explained away like this. And part of what I want to do is educate people about these things and do some things to change it.
Well, I mean, I think you got a good head on your shoulders, man. And with that mission statement you just shared with me, you know what I'm saying? I see so many directions you can go with it already, to highlight how we can, negate this instant gratification and just be not satisfied with what we have, but appreciate more of what we have, who we are, and design ourselves and, chase our own destiny as opposed to, looking at what's high and what's not and trying to chase that. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, most people are surviving. I mean, if you live in check to check, you don't got time to think about those other things. Like you got to go out there and get it. And I think that's one of the bigger issues in the world today. Because so many people are struggling. You don't got to worry about the next person. That's why so much is happening. And if you watch the news, it seems like the news cycle changes every day. That yesterday is no longer a big story in the hour. Like this whole thing about the people storming the Capitol. Like that's one story and by tonight there'll be another huge story, which is true because it's not allowing people to digest anything, and so nobody has time to worry about the next person in a sense because everybody's trying to survive, and then this Corona has said even more that the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. So,
no, man, they denied the $2,000 stimulus check, so that's even worse.
See, essentially, you're not in complete poverty; you're in relative poverty. Like, it's not really poor, but you still poor. Like, as I would say, like I'm not poor; I was poor. Like, I couldn't afford it.
The OR.
That's extra. I don't need no extra.
Exactly.
But it's those things. I think that we need to highlight and focus on more and try to.
You will, man. You will. I see great things, man. I'll definitely love to be a part of it and help you more. Like I said, I do some writing, producing, and script writing and songwriting. But we could talk about that another time, man. I know you gotta go. I know we went a little over time, and thank you for giving me the 30 minutes as a promise from earlier. Who you see going to the Super Bowl? Or winning the Super Bowl. Let's say that.
I mean, in my dreams, I would pick the.
You would pick who? Oh, the Bears.
I'm a Chicago. Grew up in Chicago. If in my dream scenario, the Bears would win the Super Bowl, but realistically speaking, Pittsburgh looks nice. They got some goons on defense. You got to say something about the Chiefs because hey, they won it last year, so it's almost like no disrespect to those guys, and I got a few of those guys that I used to play with and train with and all that kind of stuff. Pittsburgh, KC. I do like Green Bay.
That's who I was thinking. My boy Aaron Rodgers.
Baker, the situation that just happened with the Bears in that game, and they did their thing, but
they did their thing, but whatever.
Green Bay, with Aaron, as Stephen A would say, that's a bad man. So,
right.
That'd be my choices. National championship. I like Alabama. I mean, not us. Why not them?
Exactly.
Although, just in the spirit of the culture, I do want Justin to do good things. Just another, African American quarterback. That's big for me, because growing up, there wasn't a bunch of those guys. There was Rodney Peete, Steve McNair, Randall Cunningham. Who else was around my era? Because you'll go to like a Doug Williams or a Warren Moon, but they were a little bit before me.
Yeah.
I mean, guys, just quarterbacks. It was a quarterback with the Bengals. What was his name? Blake.
Okay.
Steve Blake, I think it was. It was a bunch of guys that had me, because I played quarterback coming up. So seeing the black quarterback was like big for me. It was like, because it wasn't many.
Right.
So a lot of playing, it was like, well, what else you gonna play? That's why I had to change position. Anyway.
Yeah. You be on that DraftKings a lot?
Yes, but I invest into them more than I actually be on the site. I have a stock in the DraftKings. I got a couple hundred shares of DraftKings.
That's what's up, man. I was with them when they were at $30, then they went up to $50, and then I kind of cashed out because they came back down. Right now they're at like 43. But I'm all in with Tesla, man. I'm a Tesla man.
Tesla. I mean, before this whole fiasco at the Capitol, Tesla was on the run. NIO was on the run. All the marijuana stocks are up today. So I mean, today was a great day as opposed to all the foolishness that was happening at the Capitol as far as the market is concerned. But let me not go into the market because I can talk about that for hours.
Yeah. And that's the conversations I love to have. But, I know you ain't got that kind of time. But, what I'm saying? I want to thank you for being on the show today, man. I want to thank you for gracing me with your presence, sharing your story with me and your plans. And, I'm glad we got to dive into more of you, more than what we just saw in the movie, because, that opens the door to what else, what you're going to bring to the table. You know what I'm saying? I'm excited to see that. And I'm excited to see how the messages you're going to bring in your future stories are going to inspire others to do greater things.
You was going to be with me. And then, like I said, anybody who can hear my voice could join. So you'll be along the ride, so you don't necessarily have to see it. You'll be with me, so we can do it together.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you again for stopping through. This is another episode of Sleep is for Billionaires, the podcast. Thank you to my boy Ray. Go see that movie on Disney Plus, Safety. Shout out to my boy Jay Reeve for doing this thing as the lead on that one. And I'm gonna get your address and I'm gonna send you some merchandise, man. We got some hoodies and we got some shirts for you, man. I'll talk to you in the DM about it, but go ahead and take your next call because I heard the phone blowing up. They probably mad at me, but so what? This conversation was needed for the culture.
Everybody go check out RayRaySafetyNet.com. Feel free to donate or leave your email and I'll get back with you. I'm also on Instagram, Facebook, Ray McVay on Instagram, Ray McElrathBey on Facebook, and Twitter @McElrathBey. But still, just hit me up and I'm looking to help and I'm looking to coordinate with a bunch of you all. Thank you.
Awesome, man. Yo, thank you for your time again, Playboy. Let me go ahead and get off this. Bam. Oh, man. Yeah, now we start recording. Yeah, man. So thanks again, bro. I appreciate you, dog. You know what I'm saying? Let's definitely keep in touch. I don't want to hold you too much longer, but, I'll send you a copy of the footage and everything like that. And you in LA still or no?
Yeah, I'm in Atlanta right now. I hit you out that way.
Okay, say no more, man. You take care of yourself, right? Be safe out there, bro.
I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you again.